Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. We have got a great guest for you today, and we've got a really dynamic topic to talk about because sadly, unless you're like my mom, who went to bed on a Friday night and passed away during the course of the night, some of us don't get that fortunate. And some of us end up having a stroke or having heart disease or having stuff that's debilitating, but we're still here. And so what we have today is La-Verne Parris, who's a healthcare consultant, who's here to help us understand what it's like to be a healthcare provider and the fact that they don't take care of themselves very well because they're too busy taking care of other folks. And also what it's like to be a strong, strapping young lad like myself, and then suddenly to be debilitated so where you can't get out of bed, you can't use the restroom, or you can't, and it becomes a real difficult problem. And she's developed programs to help healthcare providers help the people that they're providing healthcare for to make it easier for them and to make it easier for the people that they are helping so that they don't feel less than. Does that make sense? Have I described that appropriately?
Yes, exactly. That's the whole issue, maintaining dignity for the person receiving care and the person giving the care, mutual respect and dignity.
And your story really is quite substantial because when you were a child, you had a sibling who had special needs, and you
Yeah.
had to help that special needs child. And you've been in healthcare most of your life and doing great things. You can be my nurse anytime you want to. You have to fly to Seattle,
I'll do it. I'll do it.
and then tell us the story
Mhm.
of because you were a coach and then you developed this program kind of based upon the what happened with your mom. Can you talk
Yes.
about that?
Yes, thank you. It's a very thoughtful question. Um, about 4 years ago, during the COVID lockdown, my mother developed stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma of the stomach. It was due to a misdiagnosis. And at that time, I was teaching remotely full time and caring for my mother through her cancer. And what that meant in terms of my time, and this is what I talk about with caregivers, in terms of my time, my days, it's very easy for the days to feel like you're on a loop because I would wake up at about 4:30 every morning just to do what I needed to do to get up, set up to teach so that before classes started, I would care for my mother, give her her specific treatments, her specific pills and medication, and make sure she was comfortable, teach for a few hours. On my breaks, go back to tend to my mother. Um, the breaks were about 45 minutes, go back to tend to my mother, and then return to teaching. And that continued for 2 years. And then when we returned to the classroom full time, I was still caring for my mother and still waking up same time 4:30, but this time to drive to school and set up labs for my students. I had to prepare them for the New York State Regents. And during that time, when I was teaching remotely and returning to school full time, that's when I developed these tools to help me thrive in my life. Because with the responsibility of caring for my mother and my brother and teaching full time, I was able to achieve an over 90% pass rate on the state exam for my students. That meant I was arriving at school at 6 a.m. before administration, which was a safety issue, they told me later, but I did it anyway. And I set everything up. and my students passed. I had one of the highest pass rates. Then that following year, my mother developed an aneurysm, and Thanksgiving of 2022, she was operated on. She had a craniotomy one day. The following day, immediately after, she had an embolization where they had to um, embolize the blood vessels to stop the bleed. And she was connected to machines, all these machines draining the blood from her head. She's 87.
Oh my.
Yeah, 87. We advocated for extended visiting hours, and that's something I also teach my clients to speak to the patient advocate, healthcare advocate. There are different titles, but to say what you need in order for your loved one not only to feel cared for, and validated, but also to help in the recovery process. There's nothing like love. There is nothing like knowing that your loved ones are literally next to you in this strange place, because it is a strange place where you're healing. It's not familiar, it's not home. And we were there every morning from 8 a.m. to midnight. And then we attended every appointment: physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, so that we could see the exact exercise plan, the regimen, the adaptive equipment we had to buy, what signs to look out for, specifically with speech therapy, because those were subtle signs, identifying specific things, making certain sounds. And when my mom returned home Christmas Eve, we call her our Christmas miracle, we were ready. We had the walker, the wheelchair. We were with her when she was brought home, but we were ready to continue all these practices so it would enhance her recovery. And, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I hope, and I'm sure she does, that
Mhm.
your mother values what you guys were willing to do for her. And it couldn't have been just you, and it must have been other family members.
That's such a, insightful point, because it was predominantly me, myself, and my twin sister. I have a twin sister, but there were certain things I was able to do because, as fate would have it, the higher power, decades ago, when I was in my 20s, I was a nursing assistant in a nursing home. And I had specific skills that my twin sister did not have, nor my older sister. But there were certain things that I could do that they weren't trained to do. They didn't know how to do it. And sometimes, and I firmly believe this, we don't know what turn in the road, in our lives, is going to help us down the road. I had no idea when I was in my 20s that the skills I acquired as a nursing assistant would help me with my mother, and also would help me be able to advocate for her, and also understand, back to your point about being able to having to need someone. That sense of autonomy is lost, but can be regained, but it's lost initially. And then comes the feeling of losing your dignity, because not being able to do certain things for yourself that we take for granted, certain daily hygiene things, that can be challenging. And to witness your loved one go through that is, it can be very painful, but it can also be transformative because it's humbling. Not only is it humbling for your loved one, but it was humbling for me, because my mother needed me in a way that was difficult to talk about, and also challenging to accept. But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I wish that all healthcare providers were like you,
Oh,
because when my dad broke his hip, he was in a hospital room with another guy,
yeah.
and that other guy had cancer, and
Mhm.
he had lost control of his bowels to a certain extent,
Yeah.
and he tried to get to the bathroom, didn't make it, and the nurse
Mm.
came in and was, shall we say, less than cordial, about having to clean up after him. And he felt, and keep in mind, this man is dying of cancer, and he felt like he was less than. And rather than saying, "Oh, don't worry about it, that happens all the time around here, and we're Stuyvesant," it was like, "Oh, God darn it, I got to clean up after," and it made him feel less than.
Yeah.
And what a horrible place for you to be when, and he looked like he had been a strong man and had been
Yeah.
able to take care of himself and never needed anybody, and all of a sudden he needs somebody and they're not there for him. So thank you for, your mom is very lucky to have you in her life, and I know she
Mhm.
knows that.
She
And
does.
which is really cool. And but there's a lot of us who don't, and that's why the work you're doing as a healthcare consultant is so important, because health care workers need to take care of themselves. They also,
Yes.
because if they don't take care of themselves, they can't take care of other people. And you can also advise people that are going to go through that. It's like I'm sitting here in my place, and my I've got one kid in England, and the other one is 3 hours away. And so if I had like a stroke or something, heaven forbid, and I had to call the 911, they would take me to the hospital. It might be days, it might be weeks before I have an advocate on my side other than the people in the hospital. And so having somebody like you, or if you're about to go through that process,
Yeah.
then having someone like her that consult with you about ways, as an example, one of the things that you did was being able to be there at 8 to midnight
Oh yeah.
is huge. And most of the time the nurses will say, "No, I'm sorry, visiting hours are," and that's the end of it. And you teach people how to go around that system to get what you need
Exactly.
as a patient and
Yeah.
as a caregiver, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up. And I just want to go back to what you mentioned about the gentleman in the room with your father. That type of situation, no one should be made to feel humiliated like that, especially because when you're going through cancer, any illness, chronic illness, and as you mentioned, he was dying, of course he's going to lose control of his bowels. That's what happens to the body. The body is a machine and it breaks down. And it's unfortunate that he was made to feel like that. And the thing is that healthcare workers, I'm not excusing it by any standard, but the burnout, because obviously she needed to do her own self care so that she could care for him in the way that he deserved. He deserved that. And I know from caring for my mother, there were things, that's what I had to do because she wasn't able to do it for herself. And, you know, I comforted her and I said, it's okay. It's okay. That's why I'm here. And it bonded us in a certain way because my sister couldn't do it. And through the lens of a healthcare worker, because I've done it, it's just a bodily function. It's just a
It is
bodily function.
It is what it is. And
Exactly.
if they didn't eat, they wouldn't have to poop, but then the whole thing shuts down.
There it is. There it is. And you know, it's in the end it's necessary, but it's not that big a deal. It's it's something that has to happen for people to maintain homeostasis there. Scientific word that I threw out. But it just means balance in the body. That's all.
And by the way, before we get too far past it, and you had a 90% um, success rate in school as far as your students go, you
Yeah.
must have people come up to you all the time and say, "Laverne, you'd help me so much. I so appreciate what you did for me."
Oh, they do. They do. And can I tell you, it's beyond gratifying. And I say that with so much just gratitude for because I do. I believe in a higher power. I couldn't have done what I did without that. There was no way because I became so regimented in my approach to teaching and my schedule that it allowed me to create this system. Because when I wasn't teaching or caregiving, I was building my system and sharing it with clients, with anyone who needed it, anyone. Because the thing that I had to understand was that this was happening for me. It wasn't to me. It wasn't, oh, poor me. This was for me to do something, right, with my circumstances to empower other people. And that's not to say that I don't need assistance. Anyone who gives also receives, right? And I knew that I could help caregivers because this helped me, because it helped my clients. And I want caregivers to know that self-care is the best care, right? Once we care for ourselves, we can give. And that's why I woke up at 4:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning because I had my morning rituals.
Well,
Um,
and I just
mhm.
wanna make sure, then we need to take a break, but I just wanna make
Yeah,
sure that I don't hold that nurse responsible because
yeah,
I don't know what her circumstances were. She may have that may have been like her 12th or 14th hour on
yeah,
that particular shift, and she was working extra shifts, and you just don't know, and so human compassion comes into play here, and you need to take care of it. By the way, we're talking with La-Verne Parris. She's a healthcare consultant. Go to her website, which is laverneparrislifecoach.com. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back with more. And we're going to talk about the sum total of your experiences, how it then helps you in life deal with what you got coming that you don't even know you got coming until it gets there. So we'll be right back. Thanks for listening to this episode. Whoops, I should play the. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, Kevin at kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We've got a great guest for you today. Her name is La-Verne Parris, and you know she's a healthcare consultant. She's been a life coach for a long time, and I'm just struck by the fact that you have come to the understanding that being a working as a healthcare worker in your 20s, we're going to help you later on with your mom
yeah.
and all the things in life. I think that happens to a lot of us, and we don't recognize it because a lot of the things that happen to us um, are they happen for us
That's
more so.
right.
And so it's great to have you here,
Thank
you are such a shining soul. I have to tell you.
Oh, thank you. I recognize that in you.
Well, I'm not so shiny anymore, except the top of my head. But other than it's so important that people recognize that the healthcare system that we have in this country we can do better.
Oh,
We're not we can do a lot better than we're doing, even though
absolutely.
it costs some of the most money of anywhere in the world. Our
Mhm.
healthcare system by itself isn't working very well, and that there's a whole bunch of different reasons for that. But common care amongst the healthcare givers who
Mm.
need to take the time for themselves and to take care of themselves, and also, and I love how you said this, treating your patients and treating the people that are under your care with dignity.
Yeah,
I find that is sometimes in short supply.
it really is. And it's sad because we're all human beings and we're all in the end spirit. right? We're spirit having a human experience, and no matter what, at the end of the day or however you measure time, it comes back to love. And if you're in a place of self-love, and that's the trick, really, to be in this place of self-love so that you can recognize love, dignity, humanity in others. Because unfortunately, sometimes we're bombarded by so many different messages telling it's easy to interpret that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not this enough or that enough. And those are all lies. And part of the system that I've created is to change the self talk. Actively engage with your thoughts and shift the mindset by changing your self talk to come back to this place of self love, loving ourselves unconditionally, and then we can be kinder to others. And that's really a practice. It's not something that, okay, I'm going to change my thoughts and I'll be perfect every day. No, it's really about being vigilant, right? Every day I'm going to be like, oh, everyone's amazing. No, that's not it.
And a lot of us, you say, today I'm going to be absolutely amazing. And they make it through 15 minutes. And then they get in their car and then somebody cuts them off and then they flip
Yeah.
them off and then
Yep.
they're off and running. And the rest of the day turns into a pile of doo doo, if you know what I mean.
That there it is. There it is. Exactly. So that's the thing. It's minute to minute, being aware of your thoughts, right? Like for me, every time I catch myself, I turn it around. Well, why can't I? Okay, this is how I'll do it. Or this is teaching me this. Constantly turning it around and going back to that place of, wow, look what I learned today. Wow, look at my victory today in this moment. It's a minute by minute vigilance and being willing to give ourselves grace. I give myself grace. Just recently, yesterday, my father, who I hadn't seen in, I want to say 25 years, I found out he was back and he's in the hospital. And I went to visit him, and it was a release. It was very moving. And it got me to the place of letting go and forgiving, forgiving him for the past. And it was what I needed to do. It was exactly what I didn't know I needed, but I knew I was ready to do it. And when I went to see him, there were so many emotions involved.
Oh,
But,
yeah,
you
thank
know,
um, you hadn't seen him in 25 years. Obviously,
yeah,
there's a reason that he left. And
yeah.
and there's and but I applaud you for even having the desire to go and to see him in the hospital.
Thank you, Kevin. I, Kevin, this is something that is a process, forgiveness, right? And we all know the different quotes about how it's for us, but it's all true. It's all true. I'm at a point now in my life where I cannot grow the way that I need to, the way that I want to, the way that I'm working on without releasing that. If I'm holding on to that, I cannot receive. I simply cannot. And, I got to see how much time has passed, how I've changed, how my father has changed. And, you know, he did the best he could. And in a lot of ways, he was a great father. If I hadn't had him as a father, I wouldn't be who I am at all. And
That takes a very grown-up approach.
oh, it took time to get here.
And I'm sure it did.
It
I'm
took
sure it did.
time.
25 years worth. And
Yes,
how
without a doubt.
how's he doing in the hospital?
Oh, he came back to the States. He was living in Africa. He came back to the States 3 years ago. We didn't know. He was staying with his sister, who has since passed. He's recovering. He's actually in a rehab center, a couple miles from where I am. He had pneumonia. He's he's better now. The place where he is, 5 stars. I'm talking about the level of care, the cleanliness, the level of care, the way they speak to the residents. Those are high, or rather high quality markers for patient quality of care, safety of care, communication, all of those things that make people want to either come back or refer people to a facility. I was completely impressed. And also, my father's a retired college professor. And when one of the young men walked into his room, he called him Dr. Paris. Well, I was sold right there because my father is big on his title. He worked hard for it. And you know what I mean? And he said, Dr. Paris. And I said, well, okay. They're treating people with dignity. And I knew that he was in a good place. So he's recovering. He no longer has pneumonia. He's able to sit up. He doesn't use a walker. He's also 87. He's able to walk around and move around, and he's treated with respect. And, you know, to be at this place now, I'm thankful for it. I don't have the energy to hold grudges. I'm tired, kind of tired of it. It's
Well,
exhausting.
it is exhausting to hold negativity in your heart and in your soul,
Yeah.
and your soul wants you to get rid of it, because and you said it exactly right. He did the best that he could for who he was at the time.
Yeah.
And when you take that kind of approach rather than what a scumbag and what a da, 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 it's time to let scumbagism go away,
There it
because
is.
and that's, by the way, that's a technical medical term, because
You know,
scumbagism
I saw
is
that in the books.
that, that is rampant in our society right now, is
Oh my
scumbagism,
gosh.
and we all can do better. And I,
Yeah.
it, and I'm just struck by the fact that for somebody that is younger, I was talking with a 22-year-old young man that is um, in Hart, no, in Cornell, Ivy
Okay.
League. He's the center fielder on his baseball team. He's got this company that he's starting. He's got the world by by
The
something.
cojones.
Yeah. And he's doing really, really well. And I was thinking about when I was 22 and you have your whole life in front of you, and then fast forward that till 87, when somebody doesn't treat you with the dignity that you have earned throughout your entire life, because now you're just a patient. It's number 106. You got to go change to 106, and do I have to give him a sponge bath again? That,
Yeah.
and then we go from, and like your dad, a professor in
Yeah.
Africa that was doing all this stuff, and then to come home and he has to rely upon kids that may not even have a college education working, you know,
Yeah.
and stuff. But then on the other hand, I keep thinking it takes a special person to do healthcare. I
It
don't know.
really
I'm pretty
does.
sure that I don't think I could do it. If somebody threw up, I would throw up right after them.
You're absolutely right. It does take a special person, and also the ability to, I think, not be so moved or unnerved by bodily fluids. Some people can't stand the sight of blood. I understand. That's not for you. But also the other bodily fluids, or, releases,
Of which
excrement.
there are many, by the way.
Yes. And you just kind of, turn a blind eye. It doesn't phase me at all. As long as I have some gloves and, the proper equipment, it's okay. It happens.
Yes, my sons keep telling me that if I end up in that place, they're going to get me a pretty looking nurse to come and take care of those issues that I might have, and I don't know how I would ever deal with such a thing. But on the bright side, we have La-Verne Parris here, who's here to help healthcare workers and people that are in and around the healthcare system, either as a patient advocate or you're working there, she can help you with
Yeah.
the things that she's designed to help you take care of yourself, because self-love is a big deal. When we talk about, yeah, I'd like to talk about more about that when we come back from this break,
Sure.
Dan, because self-love, if you don't love yourself, it's hard to love anybody else.
It really is.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. You know, La-Verne, I keep on saying to myself, I hope that today I don't have to run that commercial. I hope that Covenant House no longer needs to exist, because all those kids are being taken care of, and everybody has got a home, and it's got a nice bed, and it's got a family that loves them. And alas, I still have to play the commercial because that's not happening yet. I keep hoping. Maybe it will.
That's right. Well, we gotta hope.
Sometimes hope is all we got.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're talking with La-Verne Parris. She is Dr. Parris's daughter, and
Yeah.
she.
He would love that.
Well, you can play that for him. I did that just for him, and she is a coach. She was a life coach, and now she has turned her attention to healthcare consultant because of her work with her mom and her brother, and she says on her website, unlock your potential and transform your life. What do you say to people who go, I can't do that, I can't transform my life, my life is just what it is, and the experiences I've had and the downtrodden thing, I can't do anything right, I'm wrong, and I'm ugly, and I'm fat, and I'm short? What do you say to those people?
I tell them they have to change that stinking thinking. It's the thoughts. It's the thoughts. You know what I mean? Of course we can change. So when they say I can't, I would say, well, why can't you? What is it in your life that you're feeling blocked, or where is it that you're feeling blocked? And let's talk about that, because I don't tell them what to do. I ask them questions and I guide them so that they unlock what's inside of them. We all have it. We all have this bright, shining light, and something or circumstances happened that perhaps we didn't realize caused us to dim our light. And that's okay. We can undim it. We can all shine. And it's just a matter of these thoughts. And that's what I say to them. I'm like, of course you can. We all can. We all have the ability. It's turning on the brain and firing those synapses and getting the thoughts going, brainstorming, daydreaming, writing things down, making a concept map or a mind map, and dealing with one root issue at a time. One root issue at a time, or two, whatever, and the satellite issues. But really, when we say we can't, we're negating this unlimited potential within ourselves. Unlimited. Unlimited. Because if we look at the yogis, the ancient spiritual masters, look at what they've been able to do just by controlling this, walking on hot coals, holding their breath in the water for 13 minutes, 15 minutes at a time. The list goes on, but it all starts here. And now, I'm not saying it happens overnight. It's that's why it's called a practice. It's constant thought monitoring, mindset shifting, changing the self-talk in every moment. In
You know,
every moment. Mhm.
I always hated coaches like you because you ask questions. And
I did.
rather than tell me what I'm supposed to, just tell me. I don't know. Just tell me what I'm supposed to do and I'll go do it because you know that after I get done with that and you tell me, and then I'm going to leave and I'm never going to do what you told me to do.
Yes, you
Um,
will.
you're going to make me.
Yeah,
And
I was a teacher, of course.
and it's important that people recognize, though, that you asking questions of them coming up with their own answers, going deeply into, because for some reason, there's something really therapeutic about somebody asking you a question and then having to give them an honest answer because you're verbalizing something that you might not even have said to yourself. And
Yeah,
then when you're saying it to somebody else, you're now, because that makes it a lot more real
yeah,
than
that's
if
right.
it's a fleeting thought in your mind.
Mhm.
And so when somebody asks you a question like that and they say, okay, what do you really want to do? And
Yeah.
you have no, I don't know what I want to do. What do you like? Well, I don't, and eventually you'll get to a point where you say,
Mm.
you know what? I would love to have a talk show on the radio where I can interview people like Vern Parris, who do such extraordinary work and are such wonderful human beings that I can help facilitate the change in the world that needs to take place for all of us to get along and to recognize that we are all one and that we can make this a better place for everybody.
Wow. And that's you living your purpose.
And that was a conversation that I had with myself many, many years ago because
Wow.
that's what I decided that I wanted to do. And
That's
go ahead.
that's amazing. And but see, the fact that you just said that's a conversation I had with myself, that's beautiful because that with you saying that, that's unlocking to all the listeners right now that they can have conversations with themselves. I talk to myself all the time and I write things down, but I'm constantly looking at ways I can do things. And if you do that verbally, if you write it out, however you think about it, pictures, everyone's different. And maybe some people have to literally record themselves because they're auditory learners or kinesthetic learners. Maybe they have to move around. It doesn't matter. Your conversation with yourself is part of you in touch with the divine. And when I say that we're all spirit, it's that spark within us, higher power that is telling us what we need. And when you had that conversation with yourself, that was a beautiful moment because look at what you've done.
Well, the interesting thing about that, Laverne, is that while I was having that conversation with myself, I was actually having that conversation with my guides and my angels on the other side.
Yes.
And what they were doing was leading me down because I'm not a real bright guy. You gotta walk me through some stuff. And so what they did is they walked me from, okay, let's have him go here and let's have him learn this.
Mhm.
Let's have him have this experience and then to go there. And then we're going to put him in touch with this. Um, and then we're going to do this. I wasn't going to be, I had no earthly idea that I wanted to do a radio show until I was confronted by a friend. We were doing meditation and we were learning all kinds of new things.
Yeah.
And he said to me, why don't we do a television show and talk about all the things we're learning? And I said, well, I'll check it out. We couldn't do TV, but we could do radio. So we started a
Awesome.
radio show together. I haven't talked to in 20 years. Um, and but I fell in love with the medium of radio. As a matter of fact, he said to me one of the last days I saw him that we were actually friends. He said, you could do this by yourself. I said, I
Wow.
know, but I don't want to. I want to include others. I want to make it bigger
Mm.
than that. And but so over the course of 20 years, this has been, and the universe, if you allow them to and you say yes, they will take you from point A to point B to point C exactly when you need it, not when you think you need it, but exactly when they know that you need it, so that you
Yes.
can get to the next point and the next point
Yes.
and the next point, and then eventually you will look back on it and say, "Oh, I see why that happened now."
Oh my goodness. Everything you said, I am so moved because it resonated completely with me. When you say, okay, you're not the brightest. Well, first of all, I don't believe that. But
Yeah,
I will say for me, I used to be so hard-headed, meaning that my guys would give me messages and I would just be like, "Oh, I'm going to do it my way, very hard-headed. But then let me tell you what happened. 2 days before my mother's aneurysm in November 2022, when I was teaching, because they were trying to get me to leave teaching for a while, and I just wouldn't do it because I wanted to play it safe and get that pension, all that, all the things, right? All the trappings of
sure.
security and safety and all that. But literally 2 days in my classroom, I was opening the window because, of course, I had to get there early because that was my routine, extremely rigid. But right, I was opening my window with the stick. Anybody in public education knows you use this big stick to pull down the window because there are these hooks in there. And I literally fell back, and I've had a concussion to the back of my head in the same spot 4 times. I fell back and narrowly missed the edge. There's a metal foam box in a public school classroom. Missed it by this much. I could have split my skull open because the amount of space that for my head to not miss it. I literally felt a cushion. I felt them cushioning my head so that I wouldn't hit it back, but my back instead hit the wall. And I marked it down and I measured the distance. It was literally 7 3/4 inches before I could have cracked my skull open. And that was a sign for me to leave teaching. Because the way I fell, it was just like it wasn't natural. It was a force, and not to harm me, but to propel me out of my comfort zone. It was time to go, and it was time for me to take everything that I had created and share it because everything was done on the computer. I had written, I wrote 2 books. I did a lot of things, all these things because of the system that I created, right? And it was time to share with the world. And 2 days later, my mother's aneurysm. After that, leave of absence from work, returned to work with 3 months left, right? To get my kids ready for the state exam, April, May, June. In 3 months, did 25 labs, went in every morning to tutored every day after school and on Saturdays for 3 months and had a 94% pass rate while still teaching my mother all of her activities of daily living. We call them ADLs. And so when you say that, I completely agree. It was time for me to go. And because I was so hard headed, they just give me a little nudge, saved me, protected me, right? But it was time. And I knew, and I made that decision. Literally, when I went back, I was like, I have to retire this year. It's time. It's time to do what I'm called to do.
And I've got a really cool story that happened to me and that I want to share with you. But
Sure.
before we go there, I need to do this. First of all, go to La-Verne Parris lifecoach.com and go to the book page. You can pick up the Happiness Handbook, the Girl, I love it. Girl, Dump That Chump handbook. Girl, Fight Your Fears. Girl, Grow Your Flow. Girl, Embrace Your Beauty. I love that one.
Yeah.
We all need to embrace our inner beauty and our outer
That's
beauty
right.
because we're all special in a unique way.
Amen.
I saw a commercial. It was like, I needed to get in shape, but then I discovered that round was a shape. So there. Girl, be geek chick. And And then the latest one is, excuse me, the latest one is humorous anecdotes, fun life hacks, and powerful poems of this first handbook. I just love the work that you're doing, and they
Thank
look so great.
you.
So go to her website.
Are you
Excuse me.
okay?
Yep, I'm fine. And go to your
Okay.
website and look at that. And we need to take a real quick break so that I can
Sure.
cough in peace, and we'll be right back right right after this.
Oh,
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And I got to tell you, La-Verne Parris is here, and she's a life coach, and she is a healthcare consultant. She does it all, and she really, really is talented. And I got to tell you, just by listening to you, your voice is so compassionate. You can, it's like oozes compassion right out of you.
thank you.
And it's exciting. So I got to tell you the story real quick.
Sure.
When I was doing the show in 2003, I had to give it up because I ran out of money. And this is a brief thing. And I ran out of money, and so I had the last day of the show. And and I didn't know how many people would call. The phone lines filled up. Everybody was upset that the show was going off the air. And one lady at the end said, "This is Carol from Bainbridge Island, and I just want you to know that we're devastated that the show's going off the air." And I said, "Well, devastated is a strong word." She said, "No, you don't understand. I'm an Alzheimer's caregiver. And she and I listen to your show every day.
Oh,
It matters so much to us."
that's right.
And so that taught me that I had a meaning and an influence, and I could do it. So, but I had to give it up. And then I had a bad country music song where everybody left, and my wife left, and my dad died, my dog died, and I lost my house and all that stuff. And then I ended up driving a bus for 12 years so that I could get a pension. Well, when then technology caught up, and I could do podcasting. And so a friend of mine who was a bus driver, it's weird how everything works in concert. I got the job because of the gal that I did the show with in 2003. She was a psychic medium. Her partner was a supervisor at King County Metro, the bus company. And she helped me get the job there, and I did that for 12 years. And then I had somebody at work tell me about this place where I could get a mobile home, perhaps, in a 55 plus community, gated community. And so I said, well, that would be great because I want to do this full time eventually. And so perhaps that will help. So I came, and turns out everything lined up. I know this is going to surprise you. Everything lined up just perfectly. So the real estate agent was there. She took me to a couple of places I didn't like him. She took me to a place that she didn't even represent. And I said, this is the one for me. It was the right price. I could pay for it and all that stuff. Well, as I was moving into that house, because I had said to the universe, I said, universe, I really love doing the podcast. I was doing my independence report at that time. I wanted to do both, and I wanted to do it full time. And I didn't want to drive a bus anymore because I don't know if you've ever driven a bus, but it's not all that great. And
That's so hard.
it really is. But I did it really well. And I had 12 years, no accidents or any of that stuff. But anyway, so I was moving into where I live now, and it's got steps out front. And I'd made the statement to my guides, I don't want to work anymore. I would really love to be able to do this full time. Well, I was coming up the stairs carrying a lamp, and I fell, and I tore my rotator cuff off.
Oh,
The whole
my
thing.
God. Oh,
All
my
four.
God.
Well, you know how it works. So there are all four tendons.
Yeah.
I tore them all. So
my
I
goodness.
had to have surgery to have that
Mhm.
fixed, and I couldn't drive anymore. So I was able to do more podcasts and do it more
Yeah.
and more. And then my son said, "Can you watch my 8-week-old Labrador Retriever while I go camping because he's too young?" And I said, "I'd love to." And they are famous for getting in and amongst your feet, and I was still healing from the shoulder, and he got
Yeah.
in amongst my feet. I fell again and tore my triceps on
God.
my other arm.
Oh my God.
So, and I couldn't move, and I scooched over to get my phone and called the and you know if you knew me, you know that this is something that I'm liable to say. It was like, "This is 911. How may we help you?" And I said, "Well, you've probably never heard this before, but I've fallen and I can't get up."
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, I know. And when she got done laughing at me and got my address and stuff, and then they came and carted me away, and I ended up having to have surgery on that arm too. And so I could no longer drive a bus. My arms don't, my shoulders don't work that well anymore.
Yeah.
So I was able to go on disability, which allowed me to live where I'm living, which I can afford easily. And now I'm 67 years old, and I can do all these things, and I can do 8 podcasts a week and talk to 10 other people a week, and really make a difference in the world. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I get so excited about telling that story, because the universe planned all that, and they were saying like,
And
okay, so this is what we're going to do. I know it's going to hurt, but this is what we're going to do anyway.
I'm
um,
telling you.
so so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But it is indicative of what we can all do. Hopefully you
Yeah.
don't fall down and hurt yourself.
Oh my goodness. I know. I trust me. When you say things happen in concert, the one thing leading to the next, 100% agreement. 100% agreement. Because look at, you know, 30 years ago, I had no idea the skills I would need that I would gain as a nursing assistant. I would be able to help my mother. No idea. And I talk about that with my twin sister, and I'm just in awe sometimes. Well, not sometimes, but I am in awe of how the universe works. Higher power. Everyone has a different name for it, but it's all based on the divine plan for our highest good. For our highest good. This was for my highest good.
And
So, yeah,
Laverne, if I can just say this to you, and this
mm,
comes to me from the bottom of my heart,
yeah,
is that everything you designed your life plan before you even got here, and
I
everything that you've done from the moment that you created that contract till now
yeah,
has all been divinely inspired to get you to where you are now. So
I
now you
received that.
now you're going to be where you are, a life
Yeah,
coach, and you're able to help people understand the healthcare system, because it can be scary for people who don't have never
yes.
been in it or been around it, or
Yeah,
if you're burned out by it. So you can help all those people, and that's why you're here, and that's what you were planning the whole time. Isn't that
yeah.
cool?
It is. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's accepting this and everything leading up to this has been transformative, and it's continuing to transform me for the better, because the more I do, literally means the more I do, the more I learn, the more I move forward, because everything is leading up to getting this out there to everyone. To everyone. I know what it feels like as a caregiver to feel hopeless, right? But there is hope. And if I hadn't felt that hope, I wouldn't have created the tools when it all started when I was caring for my mom through her cancer. I was like, I have to turn this into something to help me, to help other people in this situation. And ever since COVID, the rise in people who are caregivers for family members or loved ones or friends has increased tremendously, like 50, 100%. I mean, There's a study actually that I look up and I quote, but and then associated with caregivers are the rise in depression, undiagnosed
Yep.
emotional issues, and the supports that caregivers need, they can have. I mean, it's there for them. And the thing is that what's the most important thing for caregivers is to realize we're not alone. We're not alone. We can form a network. We can talk to people. We can learn strategies. It's just easy to get into that bubble. But guess what? Bubbles burst. Bubbles burst. They don't last, right? And we can reach out and we can still accomplish personal goals and professional goals. We can. We can. And it's just up here.
Well, I would. I want to play the part. Since I was an actor when I was a kid, I'm going to play the part of your guys on the other side.
Okay.
And the people that are around you. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
what do we do? What do we do? How are we going to make this work? Okay, I know. We'll have her brother have autistic needs and to be
Yeah.
special needs that she needs to help him with. Okay, that's great. Then we're going to have her go to school and we're going to have her become a nurse's assistant while she's going to school and stuff. And that will give her some of those extra. And then we're going to have her teach for a long time. And I know. And then we'll have her mom get sick.
Yeah.
And then she's going to caregive her mom. But we need to make that more. So we'll do the aneurysm thing.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, okay, this lines it up perfectly for her to be now in a position to have the expertise and the skills to be able to tell other people what she's gone through. And then because she's a teacher, we'll have her write it down. And she'll put it down in a book. And she'll put it in several books. And it's going to work out great for her. But more importantly, she's going to help humanity. Isn't that great? And they're going to sit back in their chair and go, haven't we done a good job?
Oh my God, Kevin, you nailed it. Exactly. The teaching part, 100%. Being a teacher for so long, and I won awards, but being a teacher for so long, I created these strategies, these workbooks and tools and strategies the way a teacher would for an assignment. But this is for the mindset, for the emotions, for overcoming perceived obstacles, limiting beliefs, cultivating positive self-talk, reflecting on growth, right? And digging deeper. And the teaching, 100%, that was what brought it all together. Because I couldn't create them without having the mindset of a teacher. Okay, step A, step B, step C, you know. And as a teacher, you work backwards. What's the ultimate goal? Backwards design, right? What's the ultimate goal? You write it down and then you go backwards. Okay, what do I need to do in the step before that, and the step before that, and the step before that? But I broke it down into those four main components with other parts as well. But I tried to make them not, I don't want to say amusing but fun. We can shift our mindsets and still have fun doing it because it's a game with ourselves. The game is, how much can I love myself today? How much can I love myself in this moment? That's the game.
Well,
Right?
and the other thing that they did, and it was real purposeful, was to provide you with all of this stuff. And okay, let's throw in a dash of stubbornness and a dash of the desire to get stuff done, and so that she's able to get up at 4:30 in the friggin' morning every day. It's
crazy.
Like, that's not even right. That's not even right. That's wrong.
It is.
La-Verne Parris has been our guest. I've loved having you on the show. You're just so dynamic and so wonderful. And go to our website. Please go to our website, which is La-Verne Parris lifecoach.com, and get her books. Look at her services. She's got a store. She's got a blog. You are just sensational, my dear.
Oh my goodness. Back at you. I have had so much fun. This has been a joy.
I'm so glad, and you're going to provide a joy to other people, and that is what is. You're going to make it life work for other folks, and thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it
so much. My best to you. All the best.
Thank you. And everybody, you have yourselves a great day. And would you go to her website, LaVerneParrisLifeCoach.com, and get all the information? You'll find that it'll help you a great deal. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
We've run out of time.
Kevin. Oh, bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro. And we did it.
We did it.
Oh,
Oh.
we made it work. And let's see. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.